Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, then run it back. Run it up, run it back. Run it up, then run it back.
Hello, and happiest of Mondays. We're coming at you from our abodes. Chandler Parsons, Lou Will. What? Hold up. That
Your
looks
dentist is not going to be happy, Lou.
That is what it should always be. Never let that go back. Chandler, did you talk to Travis Kelce, and what's the deal with the refs?
Listen, I haven't talked to him yet. I talked to him before the game. Listen, they're not
First down,
cheating. They have nothing to do with that. They reviewed the play enough. Just enjoy greatness that we're seeing right now, and let's stop making excuses why these guys are dominating the whole NFL.
God,
listen,
they're the most hated team in the world.
I love the Chiefs, and I want to see the three-peat, but I've never seen a catch when the ball hits the ground. I'm just saying. That's the first time I've seen that.
That's another play.
I'm just saying.
By the way,
I love the Chiefs.
Spread, Chiefs by 1.5 against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Chiefs to the moon. This is a basketball show. I thought the spread was going to be like 6 or 7. 1.5 is a little light in the loafers.
I don't think that's what that means. We're gonna go to some basketball. We got some headlines to go around. This is in shocking news. Kyle Kuzma just realized his team is awful. 6-38, worst record in the league. They're on their second 13-game losing streak of the season, and he's starting to have enough of this. Here's a tweet. He's done trying to fit in. I think today I just decided to be myself and not really try to fit into everything that we're doing here. Just being more assertive, demanding the ball, not just going to go out there and try to let people develop. He arrived there 4 years ago. They've gone 91 and 199 since that. What the heck took him so long, Chandler, to realize this was a pretty bad team?
Yeah, I think just him being positive, and listen, he's got 90 million reasons to kind of man up and not let this get to you and frustrate you. At the end of the day, he did sign the extension there. He signed the 4-year, $90 million deal. So he kind of knew what he was getting himself into. And look, his future financially is set. And now I understand where the frustration's coming from. He's 29 years old. He's going into the prime years of his basketball career. He was such a thing on the Lakers, and he's one of those guys that can fit in. He can plug and play with any system, any coach, any team, and he thrives with good players. So the Wizards don't have that many good players, and they're not a winning team. And so I can understand where he's coming from. This is frustrating. This is not fun. He's lost more than he ever has in his entire life in DC. But again, he signed that contract, so it's hard to feel bad for the dude, but I would love to see him get back to winning ways on a good team, because he is one of those players where he's valuable. And just like the Lakers saw value in him when they got rid of Brandon Ingram and kept him, he fits and plays better with good teams and with good players. And he hasn't had that opportunity since he's been in Washington. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's moved, and I think he should be moved. I think there's a couple of guys on this roster that should be moved and that could actually add value on a contending good team. But it's not going to be Washington. It's a bad situation, and I do feel for him, because at the end of the day, it's not fun to lose.
Doesn't look fun to lose, Lou. We're like a week and a half or so from the trade deadline. Are we looking at a situation where the Wizards just get rid of all these veteran contracts and start over again?
I mean, what's to lose? They've lost it all already. They've had record-breaking winning, losing seasons in the last 2 out of the 3, maybe if not all 3, and it just hadn't worked out. These guys haven't panned out. And as far as Kuzma goes, like, about time, bro. About time. They paid you all that money for you to have somewhat of a sense of selfishness moving forward and trying to push this team to a bunch of wins. So, I would like to see Kuzma be in a position where he can go out, win, and compete at a high level again. Definitely Valanciunas. That's somebody that can add value to a team, that can give them a good starting big or backup big that's going to give them great minutes and give them an opportunity to be a contending team if you put him on it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at the deadline, but they got to move some of these guys around. This has been a bad mix for a number of years now. It's time to move on and start fresh.
We've talked a lot about the Thunder. They have the best situation going in the league right now. They got players, they got future draft capital. They're just really set for a nice long run. On the opposite end of that, if you look at this Wizards team, they've got no legit stars at the moment, and first-round pick, 2 second-round picks in this year's draft. It seems to be the exact opposite, Lou. Like, is this the worst situation in the league? I hate to sort of put a label on it, but
yeah, it is what it is. You know, these guys have only won a handful of games in the last couple of seasons, and you know, the guys that they brought in that they felt like were going to be franchise changers, it just didn't pan out. It was a bad mix of guys. Didn't play good basketball, and also like the maturity level. Even though a lot of the antics have calmed down, you know, whether you want to criticize Jordan Poole or Kyle Kuzma or any of those guys of, you know, some of the things that were on Shaq and the Fool or just bad basketball clips, you know, it didn't work out. Put these guys back in the positions where, you know, they're around some veteran leadership opposed to them being those veterans, and see what value they can add to another group. But this is by far been one of the worst situations. You know, even Detroit Pistons, you can see them getting better. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel where they're having positive building blocks. I hadn't seen that with this Washington Wizards team yet.
Yeah, and you know it's a bad situation when you haven't heard any rumors about the coach getting fired. Most people probably don't even know the coach's name. It's a new coach, Brian Keefe, and this is a rebuilding. This is a process.
Damn, Brian Keefe's coaching that team?
Yeah.
That's my guy. Didn't know that.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Exactly. So this is such a bad situation that not one time has a coach even been thrown on the bus, which is what teams like to do right away when you're struggling. And again, I think they do have pieces. I think Kuzma adds value to other teams. Jonas Valanciunas, Corey Kispert, Malcolm Brogdon. They do have vet guys that they can move off and they can get some assets back. You look at Cavalier and Sarr and Carrington are kind of their only building block pieces for the future. So it's hard to disagree with that. This is the worst situation in the NBA because every team kind of has that one main guy, 2 main guys, some supporting cast, the Scotty Barnes, the LaMelo Balls. This team really doesn't have anything, and it's frustrating because it's not a bad town. It's a good market. They should be a lot better. They should be doing better in free agency and the draft. And they just haven't for whatever reason, but it's not a good situation. So, and as Kuzma, he sees guys like Jimmy and Bradley Beal trying to kind of force their way out. He's jumping in that party now because he clearly is not happy and he's had enough.
Wasn't there a time where the Mavs were like, "Hey, come on board"? That's not that long ago, right?
Yeah, I liked him in Dallas, but kind of does the same thing as PJ Washington, right? I like him in Sacramento. I like him in Golden State with Steph. He's one of those guys that can play great with shooters and spacing. So he's a plug and play guy. You can put him on any of these good teams, Houston, Memphis, Denver, and Kyle Kuzma will find his way to play. That's what he does. He's not a guy that's just going to demand the ball. He's not a guy that needs to go ISO and try and get his own because it's not how he plays. He plays good off other good players, and he doesn't have that in Washington.
Well, let's go from this depressing story to a different kind of depressing story. The Mavs cannot catch a break. Last week announced that Derek Lively is going to miss 2 to 3 months for a small fracture in his right foot. Now Maxi Kleber is going to be out an extended period of time. He's got a foot fracture. Daniel Gafford is the only big man left standing for the Mavs. Whew, Chandler, it's a long list. I mean, we can go to Doncic, Powell, Marshall, Lively, Kleber. How concerned are you that this might be too much for them to come back from?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how long these guys are going to be out, right? Obviously, Luka is the big one. They are not a contending team without Luka Doncic. Everyone knows that. That's obvious. Daniel Gafford, he's going to be their only big left, so they're going to go small a lot. They're going to have to move PJ Washington to the 5 and kind of tweak some rotations and have to play small ball a little bit because Lively gave him something that they didn't have outside of Gafford, and that is a pick and roll, lob threat, rim runner, shot blocking guy. Kleber's great, kind of a pick and pop guy. Dwight Powell hasn't really been in the rotation, but he kind of does a little bit of everything too, but not as effective as a Derek Lively. So a lot of this is going to fall on Gafford. A lot of this is going to fall on PJ Washington now, having to step up, take a lot of those minutes as the main big, but this is tough. This is a team with high expectations. They went to the NBA Finals last year, which I think was a bit of a surprise. Yeah. They bring basically everybody back. We have these guards that everyone's looking for them to make a jump with Spencer and Grimes and Hardy, and they've kind of been inconsistent throughout the year, so they haven't really found their rhythm with those guys, and now all their bigs are injured, so it just feels like when it rains, it pours for these guys, and I don't know. I don't know if I'm panicking quite yet because Luka, again, he's not out for the season. He will come back, and him alone to that lineup makes them that much better. But this is a team that's built, to collectively win games and to go deep, and they don't have that with all these injuries.
Are we not calling for them to tank like the Sixers? Are we giving them a pass from the tanking thing?
They're in the ninth spot. Like, it's kind of crazy that that's happening still, but they're in ninth.
If Luka, no, I don't think they're in that panic mode, category yet. And again, Luka's not out for the year. Luka's not a Joel Embiid who's had these injuries throughout his career that are career ending. You know what I mean? So I do think they have enough to kind of float and kind of hang in there. And then if they happen to get, but they're digging a hole, Lou. They're digging a big hole.
Lou just wants people to start tanking. What was that? You got real excited. There was a twinkle in your eye. What happened?
No, because I'm not a fan of the tanking. Like, if you got guys that are good enough to go out and compete, I feel like you should compete. And so, with the Mavericks, they still got pieces to compete. I feel the same way about the Sixers and on about some of these teams. If you got enough to compete, you got to go out there and give yourself an opportunity, especially when, you're one of the teams that were in the NBA Finals last year. You have an expectation of excellence, right? And the Sixers hadn't even been there, but we have an expectation of excellence for them based on the program that they've put together, and the Mavericks are the same thing. So I was just asking. I was just curious. That's all.
No, and it's true though. When you look at it, they're 4 games out of the 4 seed. Philly,
crazy,
is like 7 games out of the 4 seed. So it's crazy. I feel like this isn't that big of a gap. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy when you look at these standings here. Like, Dallas is right there. But again, when you keep having these injuries pile up, every loss matters and every head-to-head loss matters. So it just keeps getting, the margin getting wider and wider. But it's crazy. I didn't think that they'd be in the 9th seed. I didn't think the Timberwolves would be that low. There's been a lot of shocking kind of starts to the season.
This is why we don't do hot takes right off the bat, because you just sound like a blowhard when we start to check it midway through. And by the way, the good news is reportedly Doncic is expected to come back right before the All-Star break. So that is not that far off. But if they miss the playoffs, and we can throw the odds up there on whether they're to make it or not make it, I'm wondering, Chandler, if we see a big shakeup, and if we do, what does that shakeup even look like? Who's that affecting?
The only thing I can see is maybe Kyrie Irving kind of taking his talent somewhere else, but he's not going to do that. Again, this is a situation, this is a season where I think they look back to injuries. And I think don't have to look further than the year before, where when they're healthy, they went to the NBA Finals. So again, I think this year they can kind of look, we were doomed with injuries. This guy was out of the lineup. That guy was out of the lineup. When they're fully healthy, they are a good team. Obviously, that's easier said than done. That's what Philly was thinking too for a while. I just don't know if they think they can ever get fully healthy with who's on their team. Dallas Mavericks have guys that they believe can get back to their 100% self and help contend and win the championship this year even. Philly doesn't think that. Philly does not feel the same way.
But look, if I'm Dallas, do I give Valanciunas a look? If we're thin at the center position at the 4, do we give him a look? Do we put ourselves in a position to, quite possibly fill in right there? I think that'd be a good look.
Feels like a lot of people should be looking at Valanciunas. I'll be curious to see a week and a half from now if he's got a new home for his sake. I hope so. It's time for a new segment, mid-season grades. Oh, we're all teachers now. Halfway through, we're going to go through a handful of some of the more interesting teams, and you guys assign the grades. Normal grading system, by the way. Chandler, you're familiar with the F, and we're going to go all the way up to an A+. So Eastern Conference. And we'll start with the Sixers. Lou, I almost feel like you really need to kick this one off. We know they're 11th right now, 17 and 27. Their ratings, if you're into that, offensively, a 24th spot, defensive 21st. And we know about the injuries. So what kind of a midseason grade are you giving the Sixers?
It's gonna be in between a low D and an F. I think, I just think where the expectations were and where reality is, we're way off base. And again, there's still a lot of uncertainty that's surrounding the 76ers. We don't know about the longevity plan with Joel Embiid. We don't know what type of health that Paul George is going to have. There's too many uncertain things, too many moving parts there. Just hadn't seen consistency. What I will give them is whoever they've put on the floor so far, they've tried to go out there and compete and give themselves a chance to win it and to winning games. And it just hadn't worked out for them. And so sitting at the 11th spot, still not knowing what's the plan with Joel Embiid moving forward, it's hard to grade this team any other way besides what their record shows. 11th in the East is not what they plan on being. This is a team that was constructed to be a 1-4 type of team to compete with the Milwaukee's, compete with the New Yorks and the Bostons of the world. And they just haven't done it. You know, the Cleveland Cavaliers have come out as a surprise, shocking team. And I feel like the 76ers were supposed to be in that conversation. Hadn't got there yet. We don't know what's to move forward. I'm giving it a low D, possibly an F.
Dang. Okay, Chandler. We're going to go a little bit further up the rankings for yours, and we'll take a look at New York. They're third. They're 30-16. Offensively, they're rated second. Defensively, 15th, a little bit different from what we just talked about. And obviously, the big high hopes, they brought in Mikal Bridges. They brought in Cat. They're only, is that right? 2 games back of the Celtics? That's kind of crazy. Chandler, what kind of grade are you giving them?
I'm giving them an A-. I think the only reason they're getting a -2 is just because of the depth. And that's a normal concern every time you look at a Tom Thibodeau team. Even if he had depth, I don't know if he plays 9, 10, 11 guys ever. You know what I mean? And so this team is second offensive rating and 15th defensive rating. And I think that's a great thing because I think that we thought the offense would maybe take a little bit longer. When you add a guy like Towns, a guy like Bridges, another reason they got an A is they absolutely dominated that trade. So it's hard not to give them an A just based on getting Karl-Anthony Towns alone. But I thought the offense would take a lot longer, and it hasn't. They've clicked. They play great. They look like they played together for years, and their defense is only going to get better with that personnel, with that roster. OG and Bridges and all those guys that can be, 3-and-D guys that can guard 1 through 5. Their defense is only going to get better in the playoffs when it slows down. So I think they're in a good spot. I think that the only thing keeping me from getting them an A+ is maybe adding one of these scorers off the bench, but they think they have that in Deuce McBride right now. So they're in good position here.
I'm gonna give you a little extra credit. To win the Eastern Conference, it's at +500. I actually think I did that before the season started, but what do you think?
It all comes down to standings, right? Like if they get past it, if they're the 2 and 3 seed and they have to play the Celtics and they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, I think they have a good fighting chance to get past the Cavs and to get out of the East. It's all going to come down to who they have to play first to get there. If the Celtics for some reason finish first and they get the Cavs, then it gets interesting. But with those odds, I don't hate it.
All right, don't hate it. I love this next one. We're going to Detroit, the Pistons, 23-22, sitting in the 6th spot. Gotta love it. Offensively, 17th, 13th defensively. A great surprise team. They've added a couple vets, got a new coach. Such a feel-good story considering last year they set a bad historical mark. Lou, what kind of grade are we giving it to Detroit?
A-, easy. A- easy. This is the Detroit Pistons are the kid in class that failed miserably last year, went to summer school, did everything that he had to do, and came back and was a worthy student. So I give them an A- from being historically bad last year to being in a 6th seed right now, being a 500 basketball team. 6 is pretty good in the East. Considering all things, and they've put themselves in that position just by being a hard-working team. They're tough, they're physical, they have all the talent in the world. Cade Cunningham is a budding superstar in the making, possibly an all-star this year to give them that extra boost. They got great coaching and JB over there. Everything is clicking in the right direction for the Detroit Pistons. They're 1, maybe 2 pieces off from being from 1 through 4, being in the 6th seed right now. Major improvement. I give them an A- for the effort. Still fighting, but this team is doing great.
Yeah,
by the way, go ahead. Sorry.
That's exactly what I had an A-. And let's not overreact to this team. Are they a contender? No. But if there was a most improved team in the NBA, it's the Detroit Pistons. The fact that they added those vets, developed Cade Cunningham, they have some hope there as opposed to last year where it was just a dumpster fire.
Okay,
they've shown improvement. Yeah, they've shown improvement. They're in right now. I don't see any teams behind them right now that's going to put themselves in a position to get in front of Detroit. I think they put themselves in a spot where they get one of these guaranteed spots 1 through 6. And right now, sitting at 6, they quite possibly can get to 5 or stay at 6. I like them in the playoffs right now. I take that bet.
Yeah, me too. I'm going with yes.
This is crazy. I love it. All right, we got to go to Milwaukee for the next one, Chandler. 25-18 in the 4th spot. 12th and 8th, respectively, on the offensive and defensive side. It's just been a wonky up and down season. We know how the start was, 2-8. And then they won the NBA Cup, and things have been going swimmingly since. What do you think, Chandler? Grade-wise first.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a B minus. I think anytime you go through that type of resiliency and you go through all these rumors and these talks about firing the coach, or do we actually trade Giannis one of these days? That was real talk, real rumors about a month ago. So the fact that they overcome that, they won the NBA Cup, they went through all that adversity and kind of came together. That's going to do them wonders come playoff time. So again, you have Giannis, you have Dame, you have Portis, you have Lopez, you have Middleton, you have all these vet guys that are built to win right now. They're in good shape. And I think going through those troubles early is going to really help them pay off come playoff time. And the only thing that really hurts them is that there's some teams ahead of them, like Cleveland, like New York, like Boston, that I think are, kind of a notch above them. So they're going to have their best basketball. They're going to have to be healthy come playoff time to have a chance. But I give them a B minus.
Okay, B minus for Milwaukee. By the way, they've won 8 of their last 10. I'm going to give you some extra credit. Over under 48.5 wins. Oh, 47.5 wins. My bad.
And where are they at right now?
They are at 25-18.
It's tough.
Under.
It's a tough one. That's a tough one. Yeah, it's gonna be close. Sure. I think it's gonna be like
44.
Right in the window, probably. Yeah. We got to get the specific from Lou. Obviously, it wouldn't be a show without it. Lou, we got to go to Cleveland for you. Such an interesting one as well. 36-9, sitting in the top spot. They're 1st and 12th. Offensively and defensively. They started the season going 15-0, and they've gotten great play out of basically everybody. Mobley, Garland, Mitchell, all with all-star level seasons. What grade are we giving to Cleveland?
A+, easy. Okay. They're the leaders of the class. This team has it all going for them. They're healthy. They've been consistent. And the biggest part, it's been no drama this year. It's been no drama, no narratives. We haven't heard anything about Donovan Mitchell wanting to trade or getting him out of there, any of those type of things. The only thing that I've seen is camaraderie and these guys having huge smiles on their faces, and they got great coaching in Kenny Atkinson. It looks like they figured it out in Cleveland for them to move ahead and be real contenders out in the East. So I love that for the city of Cleveland. I love that for this organization. They hadn't done much wrong. I could be wrong. Chandler, you can tell me, have this team even have they even had a losing streak as of yet this year?
Well, Houston's beaten them twice now.
Well, Atlanta's beaten them twice either. So
yeah,
check this out. Good. Houston's beaten them twice. Atlanta's beaten them twice, and they only have 9 losses, right? So that's pretty good.
But they're on a three-game losing streak, so we don't want this turnaround.
Pretty still good. I'll take my A+ and make it an A- because of that. But this team they've checked all their boxes this year, and 40+ games into the season, it still look like they are a legit contender. This isn't a fluke. This isn't something that's happened by chance. This is a team you're going to have to deal with for years to come if they stay the same way that they're built right now. So A+, A- for me. Either one, they're passing the class in flying colors.
I agree with Lou. It's hard not to give them an A, right? It's the same exact roster they had last year. And the biggest thing, they've just been healthy. Evan Mobley has really made that jump, right? He kind of is now this aggressive, give me the ball in the post, expanded his game. They bring in a fresh face in Kenny Atkinson that clearly the players are relating to and playing harder for than for whatever reason they do with JB. So listen, this team's rolling again. It's just, do we trust them enough right now? Do we trust them to go beat the Celtics 4 times? Do we trust them to beat the New York Knicks 4 times? That's the question. That's TBD. But mid-season grades, it's hard. Yeah, it's they're 36-9. No one expected that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to go less than an A. Celtics 32-14, second, 3rd and 5th defensively, offensively, defensively. They are the reigning champs. They brought back guys. Peyton Pritchard having a nice upping his levels. However, and this is where it gets interesting, 6-5 over their last 11 games. And that includes a couple of blowout losses to the Lakers and the Kings. So Chandler, what kind of a grade mid-season are you giving to Boston?
I got to give them a B-. And it was just crazy because they're still second in the Eastern Conference. Like you said, they're the 3rd best offense and the 5th best defense. And I think lately, the last month, they haven't been great. They haven't, and they settle for a lot of threes. I still think they take way too many threes. And watching them against the Lakers the other night, they'll turn down a good 2-point floater or kind of a mid-range jump shot to take a worse 3. I've never seen a team do that so much. Their starting lineup is the best in the NBA, but again, their bench is a little thin. They have the 6th man of the year, Peyton Pritchard. What can they get from guys like Cornette, from Hauser, from Horford? Can he stay healthy? So at the end of the day, am I panicking? No, but the last month has made me feel a little weird about this, but I still trust them more than anyone else in the East. So give me a B-. year also was so easy for them, right? Last year was
boring, really.
last year was a cakewalk to the finals. This year they're going to get tested. They're going to get tested a lot harder than they did last year.
Off script, if you were to grade the Kansas City Chiefs right now, what would you give the Kansas City Chiefs really quick?
This will be
Like
good.
a B minus, like a B minus.
So,
Okay.
because when you're a well-oiled machine, you can take chances. You can try things on different nights. Like I feel like that's what the Boston Celtics are doing. Like they understand what it takes to win basketball games. They understand what it's like to get to the mountaintop. And I think some nights they just take chances. Let's see if this works for us. Let's see if that works. Let's try this lineup. Let's try these guys. Hey, tonight we're going to play 25 to 28 minutes tonight, 35 minutes in the next night. That's what this grade is appropriate for them, but I feel like they know that they're not putting out their best brand of basketball right now, but they don't have any worries. It's no panic in it.
It's a great comparison because all season long I'm watching the Chiefs like, man,
they won 12 games. That's it.
But I still trust them to win it all. Like I still come playoff time, I still gonna trust them more than anyone else. I still trust Mahomes and Trav. I still trust Tatum and Brown more than anyone else in that conference.
Yeah, Chiefs have some help. We all know that. But the extra credit here, by the way, number 1 seed. They're 4.5 games back of Cleveland, but they're still the favorite to be the number 1 seed in the East. Are we good with this?
No, I don't think they're going to catch. I don't think they're going to catch Cleveland. I think Cleveland is going to be the number 1 seed. Now, what are the odds for them to come out of the Eastern Conference? Because I'll be all over them to come out of the Eastern Conference. But I think the Cavs are rolling. The Cavs are going to play. They're healthy. They're going to play most of the games. They're not one of these teams that are going to rest guys. They are going to win a lot of games. Just going to keep them at the number 1 spot. But the Cavs are good. I think it's going to be a lot better series than I thought it would be in the beginning of the season. But I still trust the Celtics the most. I really do.
Minus 110. What's happening? Are you dancing?
They're still a favorite. They're still a favorite. For everything that's happened,
they are. It's kind of disrespectful, actually, that they're still the favorite to beat Cleveland, but that's all right. We got a long time. We're going to take a quick break. I listen to this man every single day in the afternoons. Joining us next, Eddie Johnson.
Run it up, run it back, yeah. Run it up, run it back.
Never quit, yeah, I won't stop. Don't care what haters say, Eddie Johnson.
The uniforms, dear God, 17-year vet. Obviously, he calls now games for the Phoenix Suns. I listen to him every day on NBA Today with Justin Termini. They're like an old married couple. I can't get enough. Eddie Johnson, welcome, sir. How are you?
My pleasure to be with all three of you all. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but let's talk nicknames, shall we? Piggy. How does one get Piggy as a nickname?
Well, we all get nicknames when we're growing up, right? And so my nickname was Piggy because I ate a lot when I was younger. I come from a family of 7. So all my brothers and sisters had nicknames. And so they gave me that nickname and it stuck. And it still sticks today. Most of my family still says, Pig and Piggy, and people look around like, who is she talking to? Who's your mom talking to? Or if I go to my old neighborhood in Chicago, in the city of Chicago, if you go in there and say Eddie, they wouldn't have any idea who you were talking about. You got to say Pig. So Chandler, if you and Lou were walking through my old neighborhood in the west side of Chicago and you kind of turned down the wrong corner, just say, hey, man, you know Pig?
Hey, I actually like it.
Do you know Pig or do you know Zeke? All right? You all know who Zeke is, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
That's Isaiah Thomas, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Or you say Drawls. And Drawls was Mark Aguirre. All right. So all three of us grew up together. So if you said that, then you can get through. That's the key word.
I love that. Otherwise, no.
There it is. Eddie, one of the biggest stories this year has obviously been Jimmy Butler, and everybody's waiting to see what happens with the Heat and their trade situations. And obviously, Phoenix has been a part of that a big part of that conversation. Let me get your opinion. Do you think that trade works if Jimmy Butler comes that way in Phoenix?
Well, look, Jimmy's a tremendous basketball player, right? So if we're just talking basketball player, of course it'll help. It'll help our team. But, I think the stuff that he's going through off the court and how he's handling it, you start to wonder, okay, will he be the same here, or will he be back to that guy of a couple of years ago that helped the Miami Heat get to a couple of finals? And so that question mark is always there. You guys know this. Like, your past follows you until you prove people wrong, right? I had a past as it followed me to different teams and whatever it was, right? And so you have to win people over. That's all it is. And so, but from a basketball standpoint, of course, do I think the trade's going to happen? No, I don't. I don't think it's going to happen. But, I think there's a lot of teams that's trying to get Jimmy right now if they can. But it's two stubborn people right now, man. When you get two stubborn people, Pat Riley and Jimmy Butler, sometimes it doesn't work out right.
Yeah, and I was going to ask, hypothetically speaking, if that trade does go through with the way that team is constructed right now, does Jimmy put them in a position to be immediate contenders, or is there some other areas they should focus on as well?
Without a doubt, he does, because he's a very unselfish basketball player. You see it with his, how he played in Miami. Not too many people who are the best player on their team will allow a guy to take more shots than them. Right? And that's what Tyler Hero has done. He's put him in that position. We know LeBron did that with Kyrie in Cleveland. When Kyrie took more shots the year, I think they won the title. So that stuff happens. And I think the unselfishness of Jimmy is excellent. And that's why teams would probably be willing to put up with the toughness of him in regards to everything else to put a uniform on him. If you look at us play, and I say this all the time on our telecast, and you all know basketball is a simple sport, man. It's just certain things that get you in trouble. Every game is going to come down to the last 3 minutes. That's what NBA games are. And how are you going to perform, right? But for us, it's not the last three. It's what we have done in the first three. And what we have done in the first three, for the most part of this year, turn the ball over. What we have done, not rebound. And we've outshot teams. We have outshot teams numerous times this year, but we've lost. Why? Because we allowed the opposition, despite not shooting as well, to get 15 more field goal attempts because of the offensive glass, because of turnovers. And so the addition of Nick Richards for us is huge. Like, yeah, Jimmy would be great, but I just want people to understand the addition of Nick Richards is huge, even if we don't get Jimmy and we don't make another deal. Because what he has done, he's rebounding the ball, man, and they're not turning it over. Like the other night was weird. That we beat the Wizards, and we know the Wizards are a bad team. But the Wizards outshot us from the field. But yet, we pretty much controlled the game. Why? We only had 3 turnovers at halftime. Nick Richards had 15 rebounds at halftime. That's why. And we have great shooters on our team. I'll match our shooters with anybody, with Brad, Devin, and KD. And we're going to score. But it's the other intangibles, guys, and Michelle, okay, that just gets us in trouble, man. It just gets us in trouble time and time.
Because, Eddie, I wanted to ask, on the flip side of that coin, as much as we talk about Jimmy Butler, Bradley Beal name is synonymous at the same time in all of this talk. You feel like all of this surrounding him, has it had a negative impact on how he's been going about business?
I think he's handled it well, Lou. I truly do. It's always a tough situation. We've been through this stuff, man, where our names are thrown around at a high level, and it's really not too much we can say about it, especially when it comes to trades. I think Brad has carried himself well. I think it was tough initially to go to the bench, but what I would tell him is, and I look at him and I experienced the same thing as a young player. I was starting 400 straight games, and they came to me and said, "Eddie, we want to bring you off the bench." And I tried. I'm telling you, they were worried that I was going to come up in there and do something to some people. But once I understood it a little bit, and I said, "Okay, I'll give it a shot," and I saw that, okay, I'm in the game 4 minutes in. I'm playing in the fourth quarter. I'm still getting my minutes. I'm still getting my shots. I still led the team in scoring that particular year when they did it. I think it was in 1986 when I was playing with the Sacramento Kings. And then I went to Phoenix the following year, and I won 6th Man of the Year. and averaged 20 points, in 28 minutes. You know why? Because when I went in the game, Cotton Fitzsimmons, who's the coach, said, look, Eddie touches the ball every time down twice. Because we were running team.
All right.
No one, if you're not wide open, we're getting screens, setting screens for him. Man, I had a ball. It's like I was at the circus, man. Are you kidding me? I mean, I'm going against second line defenders. I'm going against guys that, I'm not going against Scotty to begin the game. I'm not going against Alvin Robinson to begin the game. I'm going against guys that's checked in, and I'm wearing them out, man. So I get like 13 points in the first quarter, middle of the second quarter. I'm good. Like, I was flowing. And so for me, I embraced it. I took it. And also it gave me an opportunity to play 17 years, 18 total. I played 1 year in the middle of my career in Greece for a year. And no way I'll get to play till I'm 40 years old if I didn't adjust and grab on to coming off the bench. And I think Brad has done that. He's averaging like 18 points off the bench. So, I think he's done very well with it.
Do you, given your history and just that story specifically, and you're around those guys all the time, have you talked with Bradley Beal? Like, I know we see him and it seems like, all right, things are going smoothly, but have you talked to him? Like, what's his attitude really?
I haven't talked. I just speak to him. I haven't talked to him because I don't too much bother the players as much. I travel with them. I'm around them. When I first retired, players would gravitate towards me to get advice, and coaches didn't like that. But I wasn't giving them any negative advice. But, paranoia is all around coaches in our game. We all know that. So I kind of tend to back off. But if a player comes to me and seeks advice, then I'll give it to him. Like, I've had conversations with Devin a lot of times over the years. My best conversation, and it relates to Bradley Beal, is twofold. One was with Jalen Rose and one was with Vince Carter. And I'll just use the Vince Carter analogy. Like, Vince was playing for the Suns. He wasn't getting, much run at the end of his career. It was frustrating for him. And I noticed it, and I told him, I'm like, look, man, if you embrace the changing of your role because you're getting older, you'll play a long time. That's all I told him. And guess what? How many years he played? Tried to play these 50 years old. Okay, so I think you just have to just embrace it. And sometimes I'll say something to somebody in that kind of situation and I'll move on. It won't be elongated or anything like that. But I feel like, as you guys should do, like, you should always, like, it's a fraternity. And anytime you sense somebody needs some advice, or you sense somebody is going through depression, you all know, man, if you tell me you've never been depressed playing this game, something's wrong with you. And you know what? My brother had a quote. He said, if there ain't nothing wrong with you, there's something wrong with you. There's no perfect person. And I went through depression as a basketball player, and most players do. And the way you get out of it is, one, have a mentor, get advice, or just find a way to get out of it yourself, because this game does depress you. And because it's our life and we loved it. And so that's when I'll talk to guys. But ultimately, I kind of let them go their own way and hope that they're getting the right direction.
Eddie, you're a good follow on Twitter. I like when you get spicy. Sometimes it's not even sports related. Those are the best ones. But before the summer, you and you got into it with JJ Redick because he had said that the league was watered down during MJ's era. So here we are. So says a guy who was 6 years old when the 90s started. We would have tested your manhood quickly. If anything, you would have been relegated to serving water to the veterans until you manned up. Analytic brain would have ran you out of the league in the 90s. Have you crossed paths with Coach Redick since then?
The one thing guys know with me is that it's never highly personal. It's kind of trash talk. Like, that's what I did. I was one of the biggest trash talkers in NBA history that you didn't know about, okay? And the guy that taught me was Larry Bird. Trust me on that one. He taught me, man. That dude used to say some of the craziest stuff to me. He and Xavier McDaniel. But it wasn't personal. But when you talk about our game, like when you talk about the history of my game, then it's personal. It's personal.
Sure.
Because, I'm fortunate enough to be still around, and I'm into your decades. So I'm calling games, I'm seeing it. So I can legally have some advice. JJ was a little toddler. Okay?
Legally.
He's a little toddler, man. And he can't convince me that he was watching all these games on YouTube. Okay? So my point is, when you make a statement like that, then you got to have something to back it up with. That's all I ever ask. And then it's a conversation. And to me, it was no conversation. It was just him saying that. And to me, that's like going against my guys that I played against. And if you think that there's plumbers and firemen out there and guys can't play and all that, are you crazy? You have no idea. You have no idea how. And I told, the only reason I said it with JJ in terms of him having to go get water, it had nothing to do with him as a player, because JJ Redick was a heck of a basketball player. It had something to do with toughness. Like, you weren't allowed to go through the lane in my era. I am telling you, like, Chandler, Lou, I'm telling you, go through there. I know you two are going to go through there. Now, don't get me wrong. But when you go through there, it ain't going through a landfill, a minefield, dude. You're getting hit. And it was legal. It was legal. Like, hit you. Like, Buck Williams, one of the strongest guys in the history of this game. Good friend of mine. Didn't matter. Laid me out. I went through there, man. He hit me with a forearm, man. I just went straight back. And I got up, didn't say nothing to him, just looked at him. He said, come on, Eddie, don't come through here. I said, I'll be right back through. Like, and if I didn't do that, he won. He won. Like, and I got hit like that. You know, if you're a shooter, you're coming off screens like we were, guys, you're getting hit back in that era, man. And it's either one or two things you're going to do. You're going to fight. That means you're kicked out, which means back in my era, you wasn't making all that damn money you made when you played, guys. Okay? So you're going to really hurt, right? So you're not going to fight as much, right? Even though guys did fight, don't get me wrong, but you're going to be very selective. And you look at guys of the past, like Reggie Miller had to do it at the beginning of his career, Dale Ellis, Ricky Pierce, all these guys, they will tell you it was a minefield, man. And for JJ, if he's saying all that, they would have made him pay a price. And he would have felt it, and he would be saying what he's saying now. Now, he and I have had a conversation since then. Okay. You know, because I won't shy away from it, and we kind of made up, you know? And I told him, it's not personal.
It's not personal.
Like, it's not personal at all.
Eddie, can I ask you, I have one quick question because I know we have like a minute left, but I just want to get your take real quick on the Scottie Pippen saying it was all Charles Barkley's fault that y'all didn't win with the Rockets because he wanted to have a nightlife instead. Real quick on that. How are we feeling about that one?
Like, I was on that team, but I wasn't playing then. So I was really like a leader. Me, Kevin Willis, we were always leading. Think about it. Even before Scottie, it was Clyde, Dream, and Charles. And then Clyde retired, and then, you know, Scottie came. If you know Scottie, if you met Scottie, he was very, like, you know, he won titles. So he looked at things differently. Charles looked at things differently. Charles went to his own drummer. Scottie went to his own drummer. But Charles on the basketball court, man, played hard. You know, he might have had Charles had a way about him. He liked to go out. He liked to hang out, you know. Yeah, he would do that. But he would still play hard. Yeah, but Scottie's very sensitive in that nature, and he and Charles kind of butted heads. But, you know, Scottie's doing what we all doing. Like, we got our takes, and we say stuff that can get clicks, and Scottie's doing that right now. He's talking more than he's ever talked in his life. But
I mean, he's got opinion like on anything and everything, and I appreciate it. I know we're up against it. I love listening to you in the afternoon. Third pickle, I'm buying that phrase. If you're saying it, I'm saying it. We appreciate the time, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you all do a great job. I watch all the time. And I just want you all to know, you two guys have made a great transition to the media, man. Not all.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
They're all grown up. We'll be back.
Run it back.
Little bit you buying that action. Guys, Kendrick Perkins, Lou, you're up first. He said that the T-Wolves are on the verge of having the worst trade in NBA history, trading Cat to the Knicks. I'm old enough to remember they also had another worst trade in history not that long ago. But I do think, Lou, do you think this is going to haunt them for a very long time?
Man, that's a heavy one.
Ghost?
But what happened? What I missed?
I don't know. We heard ghosts. Chandler and I heard ghosts.
Okay. Man, I'm buying that. I just, for the life of me, I still don't understand this trade. Again, I know it probably has nothing to do with basketball. They probably were in a position where they were looking at this thing on a business end, and sometimes when you allow businessmen to be a part of it, this is the result that you get from it. I don't know why they did this. It hadn't worked out the way that it was working previously in Minnesota with Ant-Man and Cat, and you saw the potential. You saw where it could go, and it gave the fans something to be excited about, and then you pull the rug from under their feet, and now you're back in the process of trying to find that feeling again, trying to look for that vibe. So I'm buying. I think this will haunt them for some years if they don't clean it up very soon.
Yeah, this one feels yucky.
Yeah.
Chandler, do you agree? This will be the one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, to say the worst trade of all time is a little aggressive. There's been some real bad ones, but again, this
if
team,
the Knicks were to go on and win, though, then can you say that?
Yeah, like if the Knicks happen to win a championship, and then the trajectory that the Timberwolves were on with Cat and with Ant, it just didn't make sense. Now, the worst trade of all time, I don't know about that because Randall and Dante, they're still good players and they can still figure it out, but it never made sense to me, honestly.
Well, worst trade of all time for the Timberwolves, I think, right?
Yeah.
Or is it everybody?
Well, I mean, we could do both. For Timberwolves, we could say yes.
I was going to say, you can throw the Rudy trade in there, too. But
Yeah, there's one that happened right before that could have been worse.
That's what I'm saying. The T-Wolves have now had two of these quote-unquote worst trades in history back to back, which is very odd to say out loud. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up on the Monday edition.
Welcome back, Chandler.
That was quick.
Run it up, run it back.
I was just talking because we were trying to figure out what's going on here because yesterday the NFC Championship game, obviously, Eagles Commanders. These guys were all talking smack. They all went to the game. Josh Hart's the Commanders fan. Brunson and Kat are Eagles fans. This is the smack talk. He left before the fourth quarter started. I had to get home so I can sleep. One of us has to play defense tomorrow as they take on the Grizzlies today. Look, Josh Hart and Brunson have got one of the funniest relationships I've seen. I kind of love that Kat is now involved. How much does this make it seem like the Knicks are really building something special there, Lou?
Yeah, I mean, this is great. This is the camaraderie that means more than just basketball. This kind of helps you play and trust each other on the court. The fact that they have this chemistry, I love it. It obviously reminds me of the Villanova college team. Now you throw in talent, mix of all of it. So I like it.
Beadle, Chandler don't have short answers. There he goes.
That's perfect because we have 12 seconds. Boogie Cousins tomorrow. That was a weird ending.
Run it back, yeah. Run it up, run it back, run it up, run it back, run it.